TikTok. We're there yet? No? Okay. Let's just commence the meeting. Let's just fly the room.
Yeah. Still is.
Right. Welcome to the Governance Committee. First of all, housekeeping. So welcome councillors, officers, members of the public. Reminder, please switch your mobile phones off or to silent. Phones gone flat. There's no press online tonight. I think our external auditor is online. Welcome. Now, so attending virtual. It's been recorded and the meeting will be available on Council YouTube channel shortly. Reminder, councillors, please ensure attending virtually can hear the proceedings and so recording to capture the entire meeting. Please ensure that you project your voice and speak clearly. Please remember it's a full meeting, therefore do not refer to councillors or officers by their first names. Any fire alarms tonight? No fire alarm. So if there is a fire alarm, please proceed the exit of the building, and for our visitor here, out the car park, so nearest exit.
So yeah, nearest exit and the meeting point is on the car park. Just follow us all.
Okay. So first of all, apologies for absence.
Received apologies from councillors Whitehead and Tops.
Thank you. To approve as correct records of the minutes of the meeting held 11th of March 2025, pages 7 to 14. Any comments? Can I have a proposer, please? Councillor Walker and Secretary Mark Howard Boots. Thank you. Oh, it's all in favour. Yes. Right, every meeting back in the routine. Any abstained? Councillor Bushman, we agree?
I'm happy to abstain. I don't think I was at the meeting.
Okay. As we brought forward, matter of the chair, we consider the meeting and urgency. I think there's two or three things really. There's several training sessions coming up, to remind you. Tomorrow, I believe it's the local authority finance training at 2 o'clock. Valuable training for those on this committee particularly. Reminder, update your boxfish training. Have you updated with yours?
Yes, all correct, all complete.
Sorry, you did tell me a couple weeks ago again. Governance training, which is mandatory on the 18th of June. So I'm not sure if you've heard from everyone. Only here. But 18th of June, mandatory governance training. Ethics standards and code of conduct training on the 19th of June. That's not mandatory, but it's worth. Adam, Mr. T, are you running that one?
Not me.
No.
Simon.
Simon.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Any declarations of interest? We don't need to declare if it's the community governance.
All right then.
That's all right. Maybe some advice from our legal colleagues during the. Thank you. To clear the agenda between parts A and parts B, we do have a part B. Can I have a proposer, please? Councillor Howard Booth and seconder. Councillor Ward. Thank you. Not going to go on that, do we? Okay. Right. Item 6, Community Governance Review, pages 15 to 50. And that's for our senior electoral officer.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'll introduce the report
Thank you.
and Debbie will help me out with all the questions. Yeah, it's quite right, Chair. Okay, so we're looking to commence a community governance review based on the request from a number of parish and town councils. The purpose of this report is to agree the scope of that review and to agree the proposed timetable. Appendix B sets out the terms of reference and details the boundaries that will be subject to this EPR. This includes requests from Tawstopt and Frumpton Parish Councils and Barnstaple Town Council. Plans in Appendix A set out these proposals in more detail. We've also received requests to review the number of councillors or wards from Tawstopt, Frumpton and Northmolton Parish Councils, as well as Ilfracombe and Barnstaple Town Councils. The consultation will take place in 2 phases. Firstly, we'll consult the electors for each of the affected areas and any other stakeholders with an interest in this review. That will inform our draft proposals to be considered by this committee at our November meeting. We will then consult again on these draft proposals with the final recommendations being considered by the Governance Committee in March 26, with the Community Governance Order to make any necessary changes approved by full council in April 26. Any revised electoral arrangements will come into force at the first election to the town and parish councils after these changes, which is currently scheduled for May 27. We'll be using our new community engagement platform, Let's Talk North Devon, to help support the engagement. So I'd like to refer the members to the recommendations section 2 of the report, Chair. We are happy to take any questions.
Thank you. So we're just discussing the scope, not the detail. I know there's a number of councillors here that are dual-hatted. Yes. So any comments on the scope really of the review?
Yeah.
Councillor Wall.
Obviously, this is community consultation that we will be going out to soon, I would imagine, about this. What are we? How are we actually going to let people know that this consultation is going on? Is it just going to be online? Because obviously, some of the proposals suggested are going to make it going to change the amount of council tax that you pay drastically.
Yeah.
If they go through.
We've actually got our first meeting tomorrow to sort of sit down and sort of plan out how we're going to identify the stakeholders that we need to reach, and the communications team will be part of that meeting to take exactly those points on board, really, as to how best we do stop the individual who's concerned. So yeah, we can be action.
Question I've got is, do you think there could be a scope for various parish councils to put something on their website with maybe their pros and cons or their proposals? So the link, something to think about, because there might be strong feelings, different councils.
Yeah.
And to make it more transparent.
Again, I think a lot of the responses we'll want to direct through our Let's Talk North Devon engagement platform. But again, for parish and town councils to promote that, the same with us, just makes sense, really. But it would be trying to, again, advertise the same platform.
Right.
Then you want to come in on there?
Yeah, no, it would be for using this platform, because really it'll be, we're hoping to put something together to so people can respond to the questions rather than actually, people obviously be able to freely email us in, but if we can direct it to, to have a good strong cases, like I was mentioning to you before about the fors and against, that will be the real, what we're looking at, if you like, when we're actually making these decisions. Isn't a case of, because the reasons maybe because it's going to increase council tax or because this is how we want to do it. It's, why it would be best for the parish, that community, that these changes will happen.
Any other? Mr. Howard is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
can I just ask? It came as quite a surprise to me to read that Lanky will be involved in these changes. Has Lanky Parish Council received any information about this so far?
The initial went out to all the parish, to the council.
When would that have been?
When we made the initial, because we held, I can't remember when we had it.
We held
Can't remember.
parish forum.
Yeah, we had the parish forum.
And following that, we decided to write all parish councils. So they have been involved in that, and that was just to gauge the responses. So again, they will be one of the consultees. So that, this is very much the start of the process now, really going out, getting that consultation on these proposals, and then, as I say, we will come back and discuss them as a committee and then we will go out and consult again on the draft proposal. So it is, really we haven't even, the first meeting is tomorrow to start the process formally. So still plenty.
And another question, I'm trying not to go specific about any of the options, but if one of the parish councils proposal is to lose a large element of it, and that becomes unviable, and that council might suggest or wish to consider adding what's left to another council, and so it's not part of this review, at what stage could that be considered? I'm not trying to mention any parishes, but I think
If you're looking to abolish a particular parish, I
or
think that would be
lose a big chunk of it.
right. Okay. So that would be. It depends on the fact that it's going down to numbers, and we'll probably have to consult on again if it was drastically going to change.
Yeah.
But that's before really it's reasoning of why you would drastically want to change a particular boundary or the makeup of that particular parish.
I think it's that those in boots to make sure they share that
Yeah, that's
as much with you as early as possible.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. The report was very good. I think it's quite clear what people wanting or what council are wanting and town council are wanting. It's been interesting how you present this a little bit. Any other comments? And I have a proposal for the recommendations 2.1 and 2.2, please. Councillor Bushell and a seconder. Councillor Harewood Goose. All in favour? I've got your list. Yes, thank you. Thank you for that. I think that was a quick one, wasn't it? Very good.
Let's take that.
Item 7, external audits, progress report and sector update. And I think that is Charlie Martin online, I think somewhere on you. Charlie, can you hear us, Charlie?
I can. Thank you, Chair. Hopefully everyone. I'll take that as a yes. So, thank you, Chair. So just a really quick update in terms of the progress on the external audit work to date. I guess members might remember that we presented our audit plan to the committee in March, which sort of set out our sort of summary of the risks and scope for the work. And I guess first thing I can confirm is that there's been no changes to that since then. So we continue our work, but there's been no changes in effect to that. But otherwise, in terms of the work we've been doing since March, it's really been working through some of the assessments and that management are doing. Members might remember we talked about changes to the leasing standard that have happened this year to the IFRS standard, IFRS 16. So management have done a good exercise to undertake an assessment as to how that's impacted the council and what changes, I guess, come about from it. We're pleased to see that it's gone about in the right way, thinking about the right judgments, right decisions. So it sets itself up well for the draft statement of accounts when they're published. Of course, we'll go through now the audit work itself, but in terms of the sort of the direction of travel, we were happy and we were content with what had been prepared by management. Otherwise, it's also continuing our value for money work. So again, thinking through the assessment that's being undertaken and thinking through all the evidence that's out there. But then lastly, it's then now planning for the actual year-end fieldwork, which kicks off at the start of August, which is when it will get on in earnest, and we'll be coming back to the governance committee in November to properly report, I guess, on how the work has gone. But so far, all good since the March meeting, and no changes to our underlying assessment or risks, which I'm pleased to say.
Thank you. Any questions in the room? No? Well, I'm probably guessing the answer, but I'm assuming you're getting quick response from the officers, timely responses for questions, which like you did last year, but I'm assuming that's going on. Good.
Yeah, no, certainly, working very well with John, Tony and the team. So, we can continue as before.
Thank you. And staffing, assuming at this moment in time, assuming you're complete on time?
Yeah, no, very much so. So we've got our team all settled up and ready to go in August, so we see no issues with that. I think it also now being our second year as the council's auditor, I think it also gives us a good foundation from last year. So a lot of the first year work, let's call it, that needed to take place has now has taken place. So it puts us in a good place to really crack on and build from there. So yeah, all looking good so far.
Thank you. First question to Mr. Triggery is, we've not yet had the draft accounts. That'll probably be coming in September. You probably give us that date later on, but we assume we can release a draft to the external auditors before it comes through government.
Yeah, so I'm touching on it in the item.
Okay.
Yeah,
Hold up.
in terms of dates, obviously the deadline for getting the draft statement of accounts is the 30th of June. We ideally wanted to do them a little bit earlier and try and get them to this committee, but we're in a good position to get them signed off. So I will sign those off hopefully next week.
Okay. Yeah.
As soon as they're signed off, they'll be published on our website, which then means that Charlie and the team can access those and commence any pre-audit work prior to August if they want to. Those draft statements will come to this committee then in September in advance, and of it coming back in November, but that's well in advance then of the backstop date, which is February next year. So our aim, similar to last year, is to have them all signed off this side of Christmas.
I know we're not many questions, but we're having finance training refresher this year, so there might be more questions.
It might well be, Chair, depending on the level of quality of that training tomorrow.
Thank you. Any questions for our external auditor? No. Good. It's just a note. This report was no report. This is a verbal one, isn't it? So can I thank Charlie? Thank you, and we'll see you in a few months' time.
Yep. Brilliant. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, indeed. Thank you. Moving on, agenda item 8, compensation payments made under delegated powers, pages 51 to 52. Presented.
Take that one, Chair.
Mr. Fluke. Thank you.
Thank you. So members, this is an annual report on compensation payments made to customers through the complaints process in the last financial year. Some similar report came this time last year, which gave you information on 29 customers this time last year that had received compensation totaling 1,547, which was a lot lower than the year before. Obviously, I'd like to be here this evening saying that we paid out no compensation to no customers, but obviously there are occasions when that is valid and appropriate. However, the value has come down and the number of customers has come down as well. So we've reduced the number of customers by 50% to 14, the value totaling 1,041. That's broken out in section 4.3 in terms of the number of customers and the values associated with the different service areas. But I'm pleased to report, obviously, that is a lower figure than previous years and is coming down.
£74.
Sorry?
£74.
£74
Less this year. I may have miscalculated something.
It was 1,547 last year.
Really can't.
And it's come down to 1,041 this year. So we've taken £500 off
Oh,
that.
that must have missed a figure. It's definitely less. It's anything.
But I'm happy to take any questions if members have any.
Thank you. Any questions? Lieutenant Lambert?
Just wondering, sorry, I know it's not a material amount, but are these amounts documented somewhere that if you miss a bin, we will pay you £50? Because we frequently have our bin not taken, and it feels like if the public knew that they could get in contact and say, is this gone through the whole process? There's been a lot of communication about this, and then finally you've gone to, and you've had enough grief, we're going to give you £50, say sorry.
Yeah, it's where sometimes there may be repeat occasions, and obviously we try and achieve 100% all the time as much as we can. But where a customer's had, in a sense, excessive time and trouble sorting out a complaint.
And I didn't get that from this report. That was all I was sort of trying to
It's not
confirm.
the general, we miss your bin, we'll give you X amount, because as you say, that number would be significantly
Yes,
higher.
and we're not North Devon for our bins, just at that point.
Of course, yes, you're different consultants. But it's really where customers gone through a lot of trouble. The complaint process has taken place. There's been interaction between the council and the customer to try and resolve the complaint. And if something has happened, which has then warranted us giving a small compensation, and that's where a decision is made. But it's at the very end of the process.
No, that's brilliant. Okay, that's all I wanted to know, really. Thank you.
Just a note.
It is Chair, yes, please.
Thank you indeed. Thank you. 9, Ombudsman Annual Report Letter, 24-25, pages 53 to 56. That's a good report format than letters we had in previous years.
It is, Chair. The letters come out a little bit earlier than it did last year,
Yeah.
and the aim was to try and get to this committee earlier than it did last year. I think it came in September to your committee. So last year it came, I think, in a chart format with obviously the stats. This time you've got the detail
Yes.
in the appendix. I'm pleased to report that the number of complaints upheld was a lot lower than last year. So this time last year there were 5 complaints upheld. At 24-25 there was only the 1. There were 13 complaints dealt with. 6 were closed down after initial inquiries. 5 were referred back for local resolution, and 1 was in Kimberley and invalid. There was 1 upheld which related to a yield complaint. We did offer some compensation around that, but the customer hasn't accepted the compensation. So in terms of obviously performance, it's an improved performance from the previous year. Obviously, we'd have preferred not to have the 1 upheld complaint, but I think members would agree it's an improved position from 23-24. Happy to take any questions if members.
Yeah. Any comments? That's straightforward. I mean, I think last year it mentioned about last year included percentage compliance with the Ombudsman's recommendations. We achieved 100%.
It was, yeah. So I did go on to the Ombudsman website to see if those stats were available. So in terms of obviously the complaints, there was the 1 complaint that they investigated that was upheld. In terms of the compliance with the Ombudsman recommendations, I think that was the one you referred to last year, was it?
Yeah.
There were 2 cases.
I
thought the question might come, Chair. Sorry, I better do some research. Similar to last year, where there were cases, there were 2 cases in which they were satisfied. In both cases, they were satisfied with the actions taken, so they recorded us as 100% compliance with the recommendations, which compares to an average of 100% in similar authorities. So same performance as 23-24.
That is to note. Yeah, okay. Number 10, audit recommendations tracker, pages 57 to 74. Presented by Mr. Trink, yeah.
So members, this is your normal audit recommendation tracker. The table in Appendix A sets out those high risk, medium risk and low risk audit recommendations. In relation to the high risk recommendations, there are 3 that aren't due yet, none that are overdue. On the medium risks, there were 10 that weren't due yet, 5 that were overdue. In relation to performance since the last report you received, Appendix B sets out 16 recommendations that have been completed since the last committee. Appendix C then sets out those 5 overdue medium risk recommendations that have some dates extension requests. 4 of those are on their first request, and a number of them are short dated requests, with 1 that is coming back in relation to emergency planning with a extension request for October of this year. Members will recall the updates that our emergency planning officer gave. We are obviously relying on the Devon emergency plan, and obviously in relation to scheduled training, that training is due to be delivered to Devon County staff this month, with a view then that training will be rolled out more broadly then to district council staff. So we're 75% through that recommendation, but we can't close that off until such time as our staff have had that appropriate training. In order to put us in a stronger position, our emergency planning officer is actually going to attend the training they give to Devon County officers, so that she can get ahead of the curve in advance and then feeding that back to officers at this end, and hopefully then get an early date scheduled for training this end. The response training is scheduled for the 8th of October, but hopefully we may be able to bring that date forwards, hence her request to extend this to the 31st of October. So that's the request on the emergency planning. In relation to economic development, we have a couple of extensions. These were audits that took place in 2024, so quite recent audits. Both had dates of 31st of March, but the economic development officer has requested date extensions to July and September. relation to the first one around the economic strategy. A workshop was held with industry leads back in February, and there is some ongoing work being done to refine those actions to then draw out that action plan, hence the short request to the end of next month. In relation to engagement with medium and small sized businesses, again, there's been some work done in terms of business bulletins going out to over 2,000 businesses in the district. But again, there's further discussions with North Devon Plus around co-delivery of some of the actions rather than just NDC, and that's alone on those. So again, she's asked for an extension to the end of September on those. Both are showing as 0% progress, but actually I think that's an error. I think there has been progress made on those recommendations. So they should be higher than that. So they've updated the notes but haven't updated the progress, but we'll make sure that's updated in Pentana. Then finally, we've got a couple at the museum. Again, these are audits that actually only recently took place in 2025. So they had short recommendation dates agreed with management. The first one is around changing a code on an alarm at the museum. We've made contact with the alarm company and that's scheduled to be done, but that hasn't been done in time for this meeting. So again, a short extension request to the end of this month. And finally, in relation to some training for our volunteers, again, there's plans in place to get that targeted this month by the end of June. So again, just a short request to the end of this month. So hopefully members will see there are 5 requests there, but a number of them are short dated requests, and the emergency planning one, obviously we have as soon as we've got the Devon Council training resolved. That's Appendix C. Appendix D sets out then those actions are the overdue audit recommendations, obviously subject to the members hopefully approving those date extensions. There are no overdue audit recommendations. And Appendix E sets out the annual governance statement recommendations, which members will see on pages 73 and 74. And the 7 actions in relation to the annual governance statement, pleased to report they're all 100% completed. So members, hopefully that gives you a coverage of the audit track, and happy to take any questions if you have any, Chair.
If you will, colleagues might be thinking about it. The training for the volunteers at the museum, one of the things we changed, it emphasis on the Turner exhibition, which finished in October. I can see the need for doing it, but whether the word needs to change, so that's finished, but we're still progressing the actions because it's relevant for future events.
Yeah, I think it was referencing a requirement that came out of that exhibition that happened, but obviously the training in a sense isn't for that exhibition again, it's for
Maybe where I read it.
future events that those volunteers are then involved in. So obviously, we won't be having another Turner exhibition, we may at some point in the future, but this is around them having that training for the next set of events that members will be having.
I think that's how it was, how small it was. With Turner.
Oh yeah,
It was rather small. It would have a long way to see it, and it was rather small. Any comments from colleagues? Okay, it's reassuring you're closing a lot off. We'd none of us like to see extensions. That's reassured. Are these achievable? These 3 here, are they getting achievable? Because one's only 7 or 8 weeks.
Yeah. I mean, we've challenged through senior management team to those service areas, because the outcome from that is if they don't achieve those, they're back again for a second request.
We want to see a second to it, doesn't it? No.
Good. So we have challenged them on that. Some of them are quite straightforward ones, but just because of the timings, they haven't managed to get them done. But they've reassured us that they have. But I think, as you say, it's looking at it in the whole, and obviously there's a number of recommendations that have been signed off since last time, and obviously we have 5. But I think the key thing, and I know Brad and Tony will talk with the teams when they do the audits, is we've tried to make sure the managers are being realistic with those recommendation dates, so that I know sometimes they want to try and please when they get an audit report, say actually we can do that straight away, but they need to be realistic when they set and agree those target dates so that they can implement them the first time round without them needing to come here for a request extension.
This is one that stood out as the development of an action plan, economic strategy. It seems like a lot of work to me, but they're the experts, 7 or 8 weeks, and we look forward to that being signed off the next meeting. Councillor Bishop.
Everyone was wondering why I came back to the meeting, and I think it was this one. No, I think these are fair. However, I'd like to put a proviso in the recommendation that we accept these, that if any one of these is to ask for another extension, that the department head is to come to this meeting and explain exactly why.
Well, I think we'll have someone to answer if it's the head,
I think it would be good to have that department, and it just make sure that things are achievable when they're asking for extensions. But I think these are fair. They're not dragging on forever. They are just what they are.
We're not a scrutiny committee yet.
You are here, Chair, to scrutinise the audit recommendations.
Yeah.
I think Councillor Bishop's comment is fair. I think we've said before that obviously we want managers and their teams to implement the recommendations. So obviously they've set a target to get these ones done. So if these are on the list next time, then we'll make sure that somebody from that team comes to give an update. It may not be the department head, it may be one of the managers that's actually responsible for that area, but we'll make sure that the representative comes and gives an update. There may be a very good reason why it may not be achieved next time, but that's for that manager to come along and give you reassurance that they are working towards it, but there may be external influences that might be saying why they can't. But hopefully they won't be here.
So I don't think we need to alter the agreement. Don't need to alter the.
Oh yes.
Would you want to submit a what do you call it, amendment to the recommendations?
No, I'd just like to propose propose the acceptance with the proviso that if any of these extensions happen to ask for another extension, that somebody comes, as Officer Triggs has said, comes along to explain them. I don't think it's likely to happen on this.
No, I mean, advice for the
I think
the
subject to Councillor Bishop being happy, I think you can accept the recommendations as they are, with the minutes referencing that obviously the recommendations are to accept those date extensions, but the minutes reflect that if obviously any of those are not achieved in this next cycle, then members will receive an update from the respective officers at the next meeting.
Is that good? Yeah. Wonderful. That's all that is. So we set recommendations. Proposer, please. And I'll propose Councillor Bushell and Councillor Quinn as a secretary. And all in favour? Thank you. Item 11, draft annual governance statement, page 75-94. Thank you.
The appendix A sets out our new look annual governance statement for 24-25, Chair. It aims to clearly set out how we've met our 7 principles of good governance, the improvements we made during that year, the assurance we've received to support our AGS recommendations, such as internal audit reports, and finally, any recommended sort of improvements for this current year. Our AGS for 24-25 was supported by the LGA peer review of our governance arrangements in February 25, which, whilst they stated that we have the main elements in place for good governance, they did raise a number of recommendations which have been reflected throughout our AGS. These LGA recommendations are also being considered by the Policy and Development Committee this week. So the final AGS, which will be approved by full council, will also reflect any sort of comments or amendments from the Policy Development Committee. Overall, we conclude that our governance arrangements are fit for purpose, but happy to take any questions.
Thank you.
I think this is fantastic. It's the first annual governance statement I've read in a long time that it's really clear what we're doing. And I read a lot of annual governance statements, as you know. I really like it. You say overall, we are fit for purpose. Is that written in here somewhere? Because I didn't see that.
Been on final.
Because I saw what you put internal audits, review of us. And what does auspices mean? Third paragraph in the statement.
Chief Officer got one.
I'm on a different document.
Very last page. Yeah.
I mean, I could make more of that now. Just put.
No. Okay, it's only when I printed the original copy, then I was just like, oh, where are you looking? Yeah, no, make it whole. But what does All
I could
the
change that word, but it just means
What does it
in the
mean?
general review of our governance arrangements, but I can change that.
jargon. But yeah, I read it when
100 as well, if you like.
Yeah.
I just assumed it was like a typo. I was like, I've never heard that word. But yeah, I just wanted to say I think it's fantastic and it's really clear. And you rarely see them laid out like this to just demonstrate compliance with the framework. So obviously it's good. Thank you very much.
Were you here last year? Did you see the previous?
A long one.
This is 29 pages shorter.
Yeah.
I was interested to see what your thoughts were, because, you know,
I think the first thing I looked to see was, where are the actions from last year? Why aren't they in it? And then actually, having read the report, you see there aren't any actions. They've all been put in place. So again, that's fantastic. The only negative I would say, and if you get the opportunity to update it prior to it going to the external auditor, is on your recommendations for improvement, include the name of the responsible officer. But again, that's just good practice. That doesn't have to happen. It won't affect your governance. But it's just that thing that you're assigning a role to someone, but it might be in your appendix document where you're talking about the actions, you would include their name at that point. But otherwise, I think it's really, really good.
it's still a draft. You're waiting for the recommendation of the discussion at policy committee,
Policy committee, obviously the external audit, when they've done.
and then it will come back here.
It will then go to full council
Council.
alongside the statement of accounts.
We need to agree the comments from the independent member. It all sounds very reasonable to me. I think
Yeah, Joe,
it's not unreasonable.
just like to say obviously thanks to independent members as well, because obviously I know she's been in touch with Adam the last few weeks, obviously with her role at SIPRA. It's valuable for us to have that
Yeah.
fed into the work that we're doing as well. So obviously the comments can be reflected in the minutes, and obviously for the management those on board.
Emma was first, but I saw Councillor Howard Booth followed by Councillor Walker.
Yeah, I did actually have a chat with Adam about this before the meeting, but I'd like to just mention that on page 82, there is a mention of Devon Futures and of the Community Safety Board, but I think we also need a mention of the Cultural Partnership Board,
Right.
on which I represent NDC.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Walker.
It was really to echo our independent members' opinion. This is so much easier to read. Thank you, Adam.
Lovely. I've had it a lot easier to read. You're getting all the points, aren't you?
And you've got colour in it. Like, I love a red colour. I know it's probably not.
Plenty of them. It's reassuring that our independent member earning her money today, aren't you? Eh? So that is for recommendations. What's your point one? Can I have a proposal, please? Councillor Walker,
To
secretary.
include councillor Hayward Booth's comments, is it?
Yes. I nod so silently. I don't
Take on
yeah.
vote all the comments that have been made. Take
Yeah.
on.
Hang on. Seconded Councillor Howard Booth. All in favour? Thank you, everyone. Thank Councillor Bishop for pointing that out.
I'm just going to application.
Yeah, no, it's, yeah. So item 12, introduce that you talk around it. Okay, so
Take a quick vote.
2024-25 draft statement of accounts on page 95, 96.
Yeah, so members, you have a covering report. The anticipation was we were aiming to try and get the draft accounts to you this evening. In terms of where we are, the main statements have all been prepared and populated, and about 75% of the disclosure notes have been completed. But we didn't want to bring an incomplete set for your approval. It's important you get the whole picture. In terms of the timelines we touched on earlier under the external audit update, that the statutory deadline for producing the statement of accounts is the 30th of June. That's the draft unaudited statement of accounts. The plan is that my role as Chief Financial Officer, I sign those draft unaudited statement of accounts prior to them being made available on our website, and before they then go to the external auditors for the audit. We plan to have those signed by next week, so the middle of June, so in advance of the end of June deadline, and they will be added to the website. The external audit will take place for about 4 to 5 weeks, starting the beginning of August. The aim then is the draft statement of accounts will come back to your committee then fully completed by the September meeting. with a view then that the audit will still be taking place through August and September. The final auditor's report will then come to your your governance meeting in November, in advance then of the final statement of accounts, the final annual governance statement, and the letter of representation going to full council in November. In terms then of that's 3 months in advance of the audit backstop date of the 27th of February 2026 to have the 24-25 financial statement signed off. In terms of the current financial position, that will be reported to Strategy and Resources as part of the Q4 outturn that will go to members at the beginning of July. But I am pleased to report that at the moment the draft outturn position is a £322,000 surplus against the budget, which is an improved position from where we were at the Q3 position. Subject to any last minute changes, the plan is to recommend to members at Strategy and Resources that we place £140,000 of that balance into our repairs fund reserve. We have 3 capital business cases coming forwards for member decision at the same meeting. One is around decarbonisation of our assets here at Brinsworthy and Landmark Theatres to replace old heating systems with air source heat pumps. We've managed to draw down over £700,000 worth of external funding, with match funding of £100,000 from the council and Landmark Theatres. So a really positive project that's drawn down a significant amount of external funding, and obviously that would put in then more energy efficient heat systems. The second capital business case is a new case management system for our legal colleagues to manage our legal service even more efficiently than it is at the moment. And the plan is that new software system would then be approved and implemented through 25-26 financial year.
And that will go through Strategy and Resources.
So through Strategy and Resources, well, all of these capital business cases will go through.
Yeah.
And then finally, a final business case that will come forwards for capital funding for repairs and in energy efficiency improvements to one of our assets, which is the old town station building in Barnstaple that needs some repairs and some new windows, etc. So 140,000 of our surplus plans go in the repairs fund reserve, 100,000 into our strategic contingency reserve, and the remaining 80,000 into our budget management reserve. So that just adds a bit more contingency to the 25-26 year. But again, that's all subject to member approval at Strategy and Resources. That Q4 outturn report will also come to full council mid-July as well. And then that will tell the story then in the statement of accounts that will then be audited and come to this committee in September. So apologies, we haven't got a draft set on your agenda for this evening. But the aim was obviously to try and get them here, but it's important you get the full complete set when you consider them at your September meeting.
So as far as recommendations, did you ignore that?
As far as recommendations, it's just to note the update that
Okay.
I've given this evening.
Thank you.
And obviously the report and accounts will come to the next meeting in September.
And when we get to the annual plan, we'll need to know that.
Let's take any questions from members on the update if they have any. Chair.
We've got Councillor Walker here as well to answer very detailed questions, haven't we? Any questions? No? Good. We look forward to seeing the results at September. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Thank you. Item 13, internal audit, annual audit report, 24-25, case 97 to 110. Mr. Rose,
If I may, Chair, just briefly introduce and then hand over to my colleague, Catherine. I think from my perspective, just to highlight that this is one of those key documents from our perspective for the committee, given that annual assurance opinion, that culmination of work. It is fundamentally the kind of key goal that we undertake as an internal audit team to provide that assurance to the committee and the others who may need that, including senior leaders and the public. So it is really an important document, and I'm not going to touch on it too much because, as I say, my colleague's going to talk in detail. From my perspective, as a partnership, I can't be at every audit committee every time. When we bring this report forward, it's one I do like to attend as a minimum, just to talk about some of the broader Devon Assurance Partnership issues, opportunities, etc., and also to thank the team, not just the DAP team, but the North Devon team, because ultimately, and I was having a conversation earlier about culture, and actually the culture within the council is one that really supports the work that we do and allows us to do that in a really good way. So thanks to the committee, thanks to the officers as well for that. I think from my perspective, The broader DAP update, I think the context for me for that is that actually the chair and vice chair will attend and are part of the Devon Insurance Partnership Committee and influence how we work and have that report and information. But I think this gives me a chance just to note a few things. There's some success, 15 years and things like that, which I'll talk through. But actually, a bit of honesty from us. This has probably been the culmination this year of a challenging 3 or 4 years for us as a partnership, with staffing really being at that core. We've had something like 20 to 25% turnover in recent years. And that's not because people are unhappy working for us. It's because people have been retiring. And with that comes a lot of knowledge and experience that we've been working really hard to replace. So we bring apprentices in, we bring people with other skills in to do that. But actually, there is kind of a crunch point and a biting point. And this year has probably been, as a partnership, our toughest of that. I think the good news for me to kind of give us context for that is not just the support that comes from officers in delivery, but actually we've been able to recruit 2 people, or we will bring in 2 people with experience to help support us moving forward. So that concept of our age profile of people leaving the sector, if you like, leaving the employment, I think we've got over the hump of that. And that's something I think as a committee to let you know, so that you can have confidence that moving forward, we've got the right people in place, we've got the right skills, we're building in the right way. And actually the investment in things like training that comes through the support from those attending the DAP committee and Mr. Triggs and his colleagues who attend a management board is a really, really good thing. So we've got a sound base. We've had a tough time. And it's not often, I think, that maybe we would try to smooth over those things normally and say that. But I think we need to be honest about that as people move on, it's hard to replace. But I looked the other day, our age profile average, just as a context, has gone down something like 15 years in the last 5 years for the average age. But actually, we're at a point now where the percentage of our broader team, if you like, who've now got at least 5 years experience with us, is well up over 40 or 50% compared to where it was a little bit lower. So there's been some challenges. I want honesty in that, but actually I'm really pleased that we've been able to get here. It does have an impact, and not to touch too much on the update that we're given. There's a few more reports in here that haven't been issued in draft that I would like to see, but actually that is hopefully a bit of an exception. And there's nothing in those that I've seen that would affect what we're trying to say to you today. And on that note, if I may, Chair, pass over for the details we delivered.
Tony, good evening, everyone. So yeah, we are on page 97 onwards for our annual audit report. So this is looking back at the work that we've completed over 24-25. So audit standards and guidance state that the head of internal audit prepares a report and offers an opinion on the work that we've been completing during that time frame. You'll note, I've covered this in previous reports, the previous standards were named the public sector internal audit standards. That has changed as of the 1st of April to the global internal audit standards, and there's just a paragraph or two just on that with some various links there should members require it. But I think what we're asking members to do this evening is to consider the opinion statement within the report, obviously the basis, scope and the ability around the report, the audit coverage and findings provided, and lastly the performance on audit delivery. And I'm really pleased to say that the opinion statement that we are offering is reasonable assurance. Page 99 there just sort of highlights that, and essentially without sort of reading it word for word, a good sound system of governance, risk management and control are in place. Some issues which we discussed, that I've discussed in my previous attendance at these committees. Page 100 is just our colour code, and hopefully members will be familiar with seeing that now. That's something which I've tried to bring in and illustrate where those particular audits are. You'll see that the limited assurance rating under the customer focus banner are those information technology, cyber security type audits, which I discussed at the governance committee back in March. Tony's right, we still have a couple in progress. This report was written about a fortnight ago. We have now issued grounds maintenance, and the rest are very, very close to being issued. We are starting to now organise work for the 25-26 audit year. So Appendix 1, which is on page 103, just kind of is a summary of the report since I last attended and reported into the committee back in March, which seems some time ago now. So lots has happened since then. You see a number of reports there. Just a couple to note. Debtors coming through at a reasonable assurance. A few small observations there. Risk management, which received a substantial assurance, really strong processes and policies to support risk management here at North Devon. Parking operations, reasonable, and I just backups in there, which has now been issued as a final there, and just a grant there at the end there, which is coming back as reasonable assurance. So, Chair, I'll pause there for any questions that members have, but I guess the headline being that overall opinion, reasonable assurance, as I say, generally sound what we're seeing there, and look to sort of finalise that as soon as possible to focus on 25-26.
Thank you. I just look back on a few years, and I think we have reasonable assurance for at least the last 4 years. My colleagues might say 15, but I'd stick 4 years. So it's good to see we're keeping
very much so
the standard.
Yeah.
Any comments, colleagues?
Just one thing, thank you for a nice, simple to read report.
I think reasonable is good because you can't get complacent with reasonable.
Yeah,
that's
very true.
It goes to,
No, I think there's a number of substantial assurance reports there, which is absolutely fantastic to see. A number of reasonables, and that cyber governance area is always a really tricky area to keep up, as I mentioned in the last committee there. So no, it's a good rating.
I think it's strong, if I may add that, Chair. It's very difficult. I've had other conversations in the past about substantial assurance, and were we to give that, we'd have to be really confident that everything was spot on. So I think reasonable is a good level of rating and a good one to take comfort from. As alluded to, you kind of still keep you on your toes a little bit. As it
next year, John. Next year.
I wonder if you could tell me what it would take for economic development to move up from reasonable to substantial.
Okay, I think that's one I may have to come back to you on. I haven't got the report to hand there. So yeah, if I can park that question, please, Councillor, and then I can come back to you.
I mean, what we said in the past, which you might have forgotten, is we can always ask Kate for a copy of the reports. There's lots put in these, but if ever you want a copy, can you forward a copy of the report to Councillor Howard Booth, please?
I'll send it to us all. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, so they're quite lengthy, I understand. So I mean, what we do, I think, speak.
Yeah, no, just obviously we normally receive the reports in draft. They come to senior management team to be finalised, and then obviously they go back to Bradley and team to obviously finalise in terms of going into this report. But as members obviously see a summary when it comes in the update report, but any of those reports that members would like to see, then obviously Adam and the team can soon send them out to members. If you want to see more detail. Historically, the reports used to come in full prior to going to Devon Audit Partnership. So previous auditors used to send every report, but there was an awful lot of detail there for members to understand. But quite rightly, you can see access to any of those reports.
There's an invitation to discuss whatever this audit is. The one that's limited and says you can talk about this in part 2, and I can't see the name now. Is it backup? Oh, it is actually backup. Yes. Can I just ask, can we discuss it in part 2?
I have the report ready.
Thank you.
We discussed it before,
We did at the last committee.
Oh, so that's the one we discussed last time. I know about it. I'm sorry, I thought that was a new one.
Yeah.
We don't need to discuss that one. Thank you.
We discussed that in the last one, but also members, I know independent members would know, but the ICT manager came to full council at the last meeting and brought a report on backups with a capital investment as well. So that, in a sense, followed on from the recommendations from that audit. But yeah, obviously, let's go through that part.
No, I'm good then. I was just excited to get something to talk about.
Go into that.
The other thing I was just going to say is not having auditors at the moment is really common across the public sector in internal audit, I'm sure you'll know. And I reached out to a lot of council or audit teams to say, can you recommend any good practice for bringing people in? And they actually signposted me to your Tony and said, actually, go and speak to Tony because he is the good practice. And so we invited Tony in and he came and did an event for us to actually share across the public sector approaches to actually bring staff in. And it was really well received. So thank you, Tony.
You'll be blushing, won't you?
I think you attend the Southwest group as well, which they appreciate.
Thank you.
Okay. I think I raised with Brad just a minor comment, wasn't it, about the building control? I made a big thing of it, but I think the report mentioned there was last year there's no limited. There was.
Yeah.
It's a very minor,
Yeah.
which is the building control.
Yes, it was.
Which you're picking up. I thought next year, but it was meant to do with staff shortage, wasn't it?
Staff shortages, Chair.
It wasn't a
Number
major
of
concern,
vacant
but I'm not sure where we are, but.
I can give a quick update. So obviously when it was limited assurance previously, there was a number of vacant posts and it's pressure on the team. I'm pleased that we've managed to fill a number of those posts. Got a couple of vacancies, now turning those into very similar to Tony's doing at Devon Partnership, growing our own and bringing in some trainees as well. So there are still 1 or 2 vacancies, but it's in a much stronger position than when the audit took place last time. So hopefully that same pressure isn't there.
Yeah, thank you. So that's, are you going to carry on with the other appendices?
Yes, so we also have our annual counter fraud resilience and assessment report. Oh, apologies.
So, I mean, well, I think you got as far as.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I mentioned the conformance with the PSIS, which just goes through that conformance and obviously the new standards that took effect on the 1st of April. Appendix 3 is our audit authority. These are general and we include these in every one of our reports. Appendix 4, annual governance framework assurance. Appendix 5 is our basis for opinion. And then lastly, just information about how we deal with confidentiality, etc.
I think if I may, Chair, the reason we include these in each one is it allows each report to be picked up as an individual item and read by someone who may not have seen them otherwise. But there is a lot of repetition in that because obviously it's standard information.
Yes. The question I raised, I think, with Tony Brad early on, it's not a big issue really, but it's good practice. In Appendix 4, it mentions that the governance statement is to be signed by senior management. Chief Executive signs here, and normally it's the leads are here. But you mentioned the chair of audit governance committee, and I'm not sure if there's any reason why we differ. I'm not.
If I may say a few bits, I think that the principle behind that is that as it comes to the committee in its draft form, there is essentially an opportunity there for the committee to tie up its knowledge, if you like, over a period of time to say this is reflective of what we think and what we know. So by essentially allowing it to move through to the next phase, if you like, without challenge, is that concept of signing. I think the element of the wording, if you like, is there are places, if you like, as well, where it is signed by the chair once it moves on from the committee, but essentially it's that confirmation of agreement that the audit committee are comfortable that it moves on in one way, shape or form.
Okay.
Oh yeah, no, I've seen that. I haven't even seen one that's been signed by the chair.
Oh, that's fine.
The audit.
I'm not looking to sign it. I just raised it because I knew you put the right independent member to have a say, but you seem happy. Lovely, thank you. So we just note that report, I believe, if that's right. Wait. Oh, recommendation. Sorry. Yeah, just a note. Thank you. Thank you very much. And you're going on to. I'm sorry, blowing everywhere here. 14 next. Internal audit, annual counter fraud resilience and assessment report, pages 111 to 122.
I may, Chair,
Yep, please do.
talk through this one. Thank you. So again, hopefully fairly familiar to members if you've been here for more than a year or so. This is something that we do bring annually. I think the importance of this grows slightly as I'll mention a few things. But firstly, if I may, as noted in 1.3 on page 112 or page 2, our senior assurance manager Ken Johnson is retired or has now retired. He's been, if you like, a leading light for the counter fraud activity across the Southwest and beyond, actually, with his influence for many years. So he is a big loss to us, but we will be looking at what we can do to bolster that activity and that team. And we've got some really good people pushing through on that. But just to recognise his input across everywhere, and again, he may well have delivered training for yourselves at a point in time. A very nice person, but very serious if you happen to be committing fraud. No, just I'm sure you'll know that from your interactions if you have interacted with him. I think the other point just to note on this to draw attention to for everyone really is section 2 on page 112 is the Economic Crime and Corporate Transparency Act 2023, although it comes into effect from the 1st of September this year in 2025. In essence, this places an extra layer of responsibility on organisations in respect of combating fraud. There is much more information that I could share, but essentially, I think the important thing is that reasonable steps are taken to prevent fraud is something that is expected in that as a defence should it happen, which hopefully it won't, touch wood. This report itself is actually part of that reasonable defence because this is an assessment, if you like, of the counter-fraud approach. And as alluded to, and it was quite good to see in Mr. Tape's update on the annual governance statement, there was a specific risk about the fraud risk register that was closed off as well. So again, you can see how all of this links together. So I think the council are in a strong place in relation to that, but it might well be that we will link with officers around understanding if there is more to be done. Or that can be done, because there will always be more. I think the only other points to note on that specifically are the Section 3 National Fraud Initiative. That is an exercise that's undertaken biannually. You'll see various results around that. I think just for the context of almost a bit of so what on that, that does yield results in many ways. For example, and not in North Devon, we've had regionally some activity where employees have been identified as working for more than one local authority in full-time positions. So it very much is an activity that does result in generation of not just the bigger picture fraud, if you like, but activities that shouldn't be being undertaken. And again, it's good to see that North Devon are doing well with that one. The other thing to note is 4.3 on page 113 is the Public Sector Fraud Authority. It sounds very good, but it is predominantly central government focused. I was fortunate enough earlier in the year to attend an annual counter fraud conference at which they did a lot of talking, and they are, I think, understanding as an entity that they need to reach out to local government and engage more. So hopefully that is something that we can take the investment that's put in there, if I term it in that sense, and bring some of that back to local government in knowledge, skills and experience in some way. Other than that, hopefully the report is fairly self-explanatory. And again, it's the Appendix 1 that starts on page 116, where you've got those detailed questions year on year, where those are refreshed and updated. And again, there's no challenges, if you like, to highlight in that. That is given a good position and a good level of assurance for the committee and for officers and for the council in general.
Any comments? It's got one really. I mean, is it appropriate for us to thank Ken as he's left, but just note our thanks to Ken. I know he's done a lot for us over the years.
I think it would be nice to touch, Chair, because Ken has been with us since the start of the partnership.
Right, okay.
A number of the policies we brought through around our fraud strategies, counter fraud policy, etc. A lot of those have been drawn up working with Ken and the team. So a lot of the policies we've currently embedded in place come, and members will recall Ken's coming on to full council and given training to members on
That's correct.
counter fraud as well, which again has been received really well. We did this training in a quite a fun way for such a serious subject. So I think it'd be nice to record members' appreciation.
Yes.
Wish Ken all the very best for the future.
Thank you. If you do see him, pass on.
Certainly will, thank you.
And the other bit was his replacement or resources to pick up.
Yeah, so it comes back to my earlier point, actually. It leaves some big holes in some of the aspects of delivery. But I think what I would say is we have an idea about what we can do around that. We've got strong people in place already. We had a team that was developing. But I think what we're doing is stepping back and considering the opportunity this gives us now to say, okay, how do we expand that counter-fraud activity, knowledge and skills? Are there others that we can work with more closely geographically? And what sort of format might that take? Would that be closer working relationships? Would that be expansion of the partnership in some way and so on? But I'm confident that whilst I'm being a little evasive in my answer, next time round I should be able to give you a lot more detail. But I do feel that we're in a really good place to move forward with that.
You had an hour to think about that one.
Yes.
I'll give it a heads up. Thank you. Any other questions? No? As to note, thank you very much. Moving swiftly on. I'll fit a comfort break in shortly. Okay, 5 minutes. Work programme item 15 pages 123 to 126.
Yep, so this is your standard work programme, Chair. As we've already touched on for your September meeting, we have the draft statement of accounts, we have the review of our fraud and anti-money laundering policies. We also have a review of the effectiveness of the governance committee, and received the DAP feedback from the workshop that members had, so that's coming to the next meeting. As well then as all the sort of standard reports from internal, external auditors and
Thank you. You picked up my 2 points. Thank you. Independent member?
I was just going to ask, and it might not be the appropriate place for it, but when I went through the annual governance statement, I was thinking of, oh, I've seen that, I've seen this. Procurement got mentioned quite a lot of times, you know, like the implementation of the Procurement Act and like monitor KPIs or something. We've never had anyone in the 1 year I've been here come in to talk about procurement. I don't know if this is a forum where.
We had a full council.
No, I was just saying,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I don't necessarily need to know about it, because I sort of know about it, but I didn't know if there wasn't an update on what's happening. It might be a nice one to add to your list, that was all. But if they all hear it anyway.
Yeah, so we've obviously gone through a bit of a change recently with procurement, with working closely with Devon County Council. And Adam has refreshed and revised our new procurement strategy. So that's been through the member arena in strategy and resources and onto full council. And as the chair alluded to, at the last full council meeting, we had a training session from Devon County Council for members on the procurement strategy, but also, more importantly, the changes to the Procurement Act. So, but what we can do is make copies of those available to you so that you can have a copy of the procurement strategy and the report that previously went, and a link to the presentation that was given at full council.
Chair. I'll be trying to make the same comment. We've just undergone our procurement internal audit, so that report will be coming back through this committee. Sorry, Brad.
Exactly. So, yeah, we'll bring that to the next committee.
Yeah, that's enough. I think I was just going to say, like, I've never seen anything about procurement, so it's like nice to see
I
something.
think
But
it's sort of challenging with independent. You miss out on some of the things that are happening
yeah.
elsewhere. But thank you for mentioning it. Any other? I mean, this is the live sort of program. Things might change after, especially next week, the policy committee where we're discussing.
It's as you said, Chair, the work programme's fluid, so obviously
Yeah.
it's a plan as to what's coming in the next year, but
Yeah.
things can change and evolve as we go through the year. So at the moment, they're the plans for what's coming in September.
Yeah.
But yeah, in light of obviously depending what comes out of policy committee, when you look at the reports coming there, there may be changes to future meetings, but obviously at the moment that's the plan as to what's coming to the September meeting.
Thank you. Is this for? Just
to note the work programme.
a note, okay, thank you. And just a quick one before we close. Item 16, report on corporate risk register and risk matrix, 127 to 134.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, this is the report that notes our corporate risk register in Part A of the agenda, but we're also looking to approve a new risk scoring matrix, which will propose to move to a 5x5 matrix. This is in line with best practice and is set out in Appendix A on the agenda. This will allow a better categorisation of risk, as there'll be 25 potential risk scores rather than the current 16. So we will then need to make the changes ongoing, Chair, that when the corporate risk register comes back, it would be under the new risk scoring if approved.
Yeah, I found it quite easy to read. Easy to read that in popular anything on a risk register, but it's there, isn't it?
Yes.
That's my first view of it. Any comments?
I fully support this.
Yeah.
I think it gives a little bit less weight to each one, so we can actually see sort of where it is at the top end or the bottom end of the spectrum, which I'm happy to support the officer recommendation for this.
That is to.
It's to approve the new
Vote to approve.
there.
A lot of recommendations there, isn't it? The recommendations 2.1 And it's points 1 to 9.
Yes, and also there's 2.2
2.2, sorry, and 2.3.
and 2.3 just then allows me to update our corporate
Yeah.
policies in line with the matrix.
Can I have a proposal, please? Councillor Howard Jewers, seconder. Councillor Bushell, all in favour? Thank you. Thank you, report. Very useful, thank you. That brings us to the end of part A. We now reach a point on the agenda where the committee will formally move into part B. Consider these items which are not in consideration with the public domain. At this point, any members of the public or press are politely requested to leave. We back already, aren't we? Right, enough. Let's stop recording and we'll back here. I was here. Okay. Still recommendations A and B. Okay. Can I have a proposal, please? Second with B. Second. Councillor Walker, all in favour? Thank you. I'm offering a proposal for 5 minute off for break.